In this video, I've got a few red spikes and red peaks that I want to explain. And one of them is very interesting, and that is a red spike with zip green at 100. You hardly ever see that, and excuse me. And that's right here in the zip chart with the green vertical line. And normally, just for those that may not be aware of it, a red spike is zip red down under 50 and zip yellow down above 50. Zip yellow can actually go down to about 35, but that's the general rule for it, is we like to see it high. It's great if it's above 80, if zip yellow is above 80. In red peaks, red is above 50 and yellow is under 50. But again, if you haven't seen a video on what red peaks and red spikes are about, there is a tremendous amount of flexibility in where red and yellow, zip red and yellow are. But we like to see them cross the zero line if we can. And in this particular case, on the green vertical line, we have a zip yellow above the 50 going down, zip red under 50 going down, and it has crossed the zero. Zip red yesterday was 87. Zip red on the vertical green line is 21. So it's dropped, 60 points, which is a decent drop that tells us that things should significantly go down the next day. And as you can see, it does go down the next day. It gaps down actually into a red candle, but it pales in significance to the following day with the long green candle, so it looks rather minuscule. On this vertical green line day, zip green is at a 100, and you hardly ever see this. Red spikes are very typical on this day right here, the day before the big green candle. And there, again, we're qualified. Zip yellow down, zip red down, yellow above 50, red below 50. We also have red in a low angle down, which means that it should go up for sure the next day. But the key thing that I want to point out to you here is that the zip green drop, in this case here, zip green is at 66, and so this is a normal red spike. It's with zip green not at 100 is what I'm trying to say. If you move over here, you got another red spike that reverts into a green candle the next day, or two green candles. On the red vertical line, we have a red peak, which the normal definition is zip red above the 50, zip yellow underneath the 50. In this case here, you can see zip yellow is at 75 and zip red is at 94 if you look over here in the data window. And so on the red vertical line, they're obviously reversal patterns. The next day it goes down. But we do like to see, as I've mentioned before, the crossover zero. Now, in this particular case, we have zip red crossover zero, swing Zion crossover zero. We have trend red crossover zero, and we have power red crossover zero. Now, I just described to you the big four. The big three are trend red, power red, and swing Zion. and we watch those a lot. The forces when the forces within those three indicators all do something at the same time, it is significant in its reaction. And so that's a little bit about red peaks and red spikes and red peaks. And it shows you some of the exceptions, gives you some of the rules. They just have tremendous amount of flexibility. And I wanted to point that one out when you have a red spike with zip green at 100, because it's just going to go down the next day. And it's very, very typical for that in others that we see.